All right, welcome to episode 12 of the At Bat Baseball podcast presented by World Media, where we give you our thoughts on the latest Chicago baseball news, as well as take a trip around the league. I am Saul Rodriguez, along with Miles Porter. How was your week, man?
Good week. Good week. Played some really good baseball this past weekend, and feeling good. I'm not gonna be with the boys for a week, so that's crazy for me. I never like leaving my teammates, but going to go a little getaway with the girlfriend. So yeah.
Hey, there you go. Hey, sometimes you need a little stress reliever, something to take a break, But
Yeah.
hey, but how did you do individually statistically this weekend? Any bombs or anything crazy happen this weekend?
Yeah. So it was a good offensive weekend, and it was also I'm swinging and missing a lot, but I'm still getting a lot of hits. So on Friday, we lost 1-7, but I guess a bright spot is I was 3 for 4 with a double and two singles. But I K'd once, and then we won on Sunday, uh, 12-1, and I was 2 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. I don't know. I pitchers are pitching to me pretty well, but I'm also making adjustments. And there's always those first few at bats where there's a guy who's throwing me a lot of breaking pitches, and I'm still kind of learning him in a sense and getting some swings and misses, and he'll get me in a bat or two. But it's always like those last 2-3 at bats where as a hitter I'm starting to recognize what you're giving me. So yeah, a lot of hits, a lot of strikeouts as well. I'm gonna work on that. But overall, I think it was a very good weekend, especially with that second game. Even though I was 2 for 4 on Friday, it doesn't matter because we lost. But it felt good for us to get a win on Sunday against a very competitive team, and the boys got some competitive games coming up, and I look forward to being back with them next week. So yeah, good week of baseball.
I mean, yeah, hey, you're fitting right into like Major League Baseball if you think about it. I mean, striking out like it's not even that big of a deal. You know what I'm saying? So it's like don't even worry about it. It's all good. Like
Yeah.
you got like we've talked about it before. You got guys out over here like Wisdom like whiffing like at a nasty rate and still
Right.
hitting
Yeah.
hitting the ball hard. So it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. Trying to hit for a little bit of a higher average than Wisdom. But
Fair point. Fair point.
yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. So we'll start off with Chicago baseball. We're gonna start off with the Cubs this week. They come in 25-42. They were swept by the Padres. I mean that was just not a very unfortunate series
Oh,
overall. And then they ended up some. This is just like a very cliche baseball thing that happened this week with the Cubs. It's like you get absolutely clobbered by a team, and then you're facing like literally the hottest team in baseball, and
yeah.
you win the series. I mean
Yeah.
that's the most baseball thing out there.
Yeah.
In that Padre series, I mean, like I said, it was just sad to watch, but they and the thing I think kind of that put the exclamation point on just how sad the series
Yeah.
was that game two where we're up 5-0, and the Padres ended up coming up and winning 12-5, and then the following night it was 19-5. So I guess it just shows where the Padres are at. I mean
Yeah.
hey, they were in first place for a little bit. I think now they're tied going into
Mhm.
we're recording this on Tuesday. They're I believe like tied for first place.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit about them later. But yeah, the Cubs just were not there for that series. Caleb Killian had another start. He had 5 earned in 4 innings. He also had a rough start on this past Monday against the Pirates in the opener. He's just getting used to the league, I guess. But it's gonna probably gonna happen a lot more.
Mhm.
That's growing pains. But yeah, going into that Brave series, it was kind of crazy. The whole the Cubs on a 10-game losing streak and the Braves on a 14-game losing streak, and
Yeah.
the Cubs win the first
Yeah.
game to snap that streak. The first team or is the first time a double-digit losing streak snaps a double-digit winning streak since
Yeah.
1999, and the second time in the last 30 seasons. So, that was insane. Also, just having the Contreras family reunion was pretty cool. What was like your personal highlights from that series, and just what did you see like from the Braves and like obviously, like I said, the Padres one. I mean, it speaks for itself. It's just pretty ugly. A
Yeah.
good team just smacks a bad team. But that Brave series, I mean, it's for a Cub season that's going downhill like this one is going downhill
Yeah.
quick. I mean,
Yeah.
it's obviously it tastes good to have at least like a series win, right?
Yeah, that's got to feel good, especially off of the series with the Padres. I kind of want to highlight that first game against them because I thought the pitching was incredible, especially by Chris Martin.
Mm.
Just dominating, and that's really not something that we saw from him a lot this year. Um, and then obviously David Robertson with the close. I think it's just you kind of learn from those series where you get smacked around a little bit, and then going in the next series, no matter who it is, you kind of use that as a chip on your shoulder. And so you play the next team no matter if they're a winning team or a losing team. You don't ever want someone to come to your house and mess you up like that. So I think that was one of the Cubs' main things this weekend with those first two games against the Braves. So it was I thought it was immaculate. Obviously, leaving out the game on Sunday, Game 3 against the Braves, which was it's just that's just we. I always try to tell fans we can't expect the Cubs to completely blow teams out of the water all the time. This is going to be a very up and down kind of team where we may get swept one series and it'll be the ugliest thing in the world. Next series we might beat the best team in baseball. We might sweep that team or take 2 out of 3 from them or take two from them. So yeah, this is a Cubs team that just isn't they're just not consistent. And there's a lot of figuring out the pieces. There's a lot of moving guys around right now. So, it feels good to see. It feels good to see Keegan Thompson, who I think is really coming into his own. And I'm hoping that they, keep on breeding him and growing him into the young star that he can be. So, this is baseball. Like you said, it's just baseball. So it's not going to be easy going forward. It won't be. But you know what? It's got to stick behind these boys. That's the best we can do. That's the best fans can do. That's the best players can do. Go out there and keep playing. It's going to be frustrating. It is, but got to keep playing. So yeah.
No, yeah, you make some good points. I mean, look, the Keegan Thompson thing, I think, is probably one of the best parts of that series. Is man, like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I mean, I mean, it's probably not going to happen, but I know I did see like some chatter about him having like he should be at least considered for the on All Star spot,
Yeah.
even if it's as a reliever or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he's been good all season. I mean, really. So, really, this kind of it probably was his probably his best career start. I know
Absolutely.
he's had a couple of good ones this year in general, but I mean 6 shutout innings, 9 Ks, 2 hits. And then obviously, I mean Justin Steele, man. I mean,
Yeah.
Justin Steele also had his third straight outing of allowing 3 runs or less. The dude has I was doing some math, which I'm not really good at, and checked out his game logs, and I was looking. I was like, dude, if you take out that game at Cincinnati where he gave up 7 earns in 2 innings, he has a 3.31 ERA, and he has an ERA of 4.27 right now. So it just shows how good he's been, and how much one bad start can mess you up.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the case with like my Cy Young pick and Garrett Coleman. You look at like he had like maybe like he's had like a couple bad starts like when against like Minnesota and stuff like that, and it's really ruined like his ERA. And I
Yeah.
know there's like other things to read into now. It's like ERA kind of becoming less and less significant,
Yeah.
but I think it still says something to the fact of like how teams are scoring on you. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, Justin Steele in general, like I mean, also just another guy that's it been on the rise. And I mean, like yeah, like you said, it's you gotta take what you can get, and that series
Mhm.
win is something you're gonna we're gonna be happy about. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that game 3, to go back to the negatives, I mean Kyle Hendricks, man, I mean
Yeah.
it just has not come together for this guy. He's had maybe kind of a reverse season from like Justin Steele, where like he's had a couple
Yeah.
good starts, but that's it. I mean, he's been inconsistent, and to be honest, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he got dealt either. Like, I'm not saying like he's gonna go to like a Dodgers or something like that, but I mean, he's gonna be a free agent soon. So, like, I mean, I don't know, why not, try to get something out of him. But,
Yeah.
um, yeah, the other than that, I mean, Killian did like I said started game 1 against the Pirates, and dude, the Pirates just own the Cubs this year. Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
just and people always bring up like Cubs fans will always bring up like, oh man, like we're still outscoring you guys this season like 60 to like 40 something. Like, dude, doesn't matter. We gotta win games. And
Yeah.
the Cubs have not won games against these. I think they're like 2 games under 500 against the
Yeah.
Pirates, and the Pirates won 12-1 in
Mhm.
game 1. And Caleb Killian just had another frustrating start. But like I said, man, like it's gonna happen, and like
Mhm.
to be honest, like I know a lot of people are like, "What's the point of like?" And I want to get your opinion on this because I always hear like, they always say like, uh, they're just gonna get young guys, they're gonna bring them up, and they're just gonna come up here to get like clobbered and just get smacked around, like especially pitchers and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that is such a bad thing? Like, wouldn't you rather have a guy develop in the majors and develop in like AAA, stay there for like a long time? Like, I don't know. How do you see it? Like, do you like for a team that's not going anywhere? Like, wouldn't you rather just bring up like most of the guys that are ready to like or semi ready to come up, and even if they're gonna struggle, like struggle in the majors?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's good to kind of bring up a young player and let him kind of go through the ups and downs of playing in the big leagues. My thing with that is that there still has to be development from it. There still has to be work from the pitching staff, from the pitching coaches, and then the coaching staff in general, to kind of make sure that these guys aren't they're not coming up, or they're not just going out there blind and just getting clobbered for 5, 6 outings, and then after that, it's they didn't really get anything out of it. The main thing is that they have to make sure that these players are getting something out of it and they're learning. What a lot of teams have done in the past is that they're just sending guys up, and there's not really any development that's going into it. Now there's probably a lot of breaking down and going over video after starts and after pitching appearances. But in a lot of cases, some of these teams are kind of just throwing these guys to the wolves, without any ways of getting better and defending themselves. So what I'm hoping is that as we continue this trend of bringing up young pitchers and letting them kind of struggle, um, the organization has to do their part in making sure that there's still development going on. Because just because you're getting knocked around a bit doesn't mean that you are developing. Um, if you are getting something out of it, if you are able to adjust, if you're able to learn, that is where it counts the most. That where it works. That's where it works. But if we're just sending guys up there just to get smacked around, it's because one of our pitchers went on the IL and we need another Ross. It's not going to work. There has to be purpose every single time these teams are bringing up their players.
No, oh yeah, that's a fair point, man. No, yeah, that did definitely help. What I was going with that, because like I guess kind of what you're saying is like their confidence can be ruined. Is that
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
right? Because so like the like and yeah, younger guys is probably harder to like even met like to positively impact their like a bad start's gonna ruin their confidence more than it's gonna help them. Like even if you probably say, I'm sure even if you're like, dude, your curveball was on today, or they weren't hitting your sinker or something like
Hmm.
that, it probably still even if the dude's like, oh, for sure that's a dope. I'm sure in their mind they're like, yeah, but like everything else wasn't working. So I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, it's still you're probably better off getting smacked around in AAA than you are at the majors in the sense of for confidence purposes. Yeah, I mean it's definitely that definitely makes more sense than what what some teams have been trying to do or have done. So
Yeah.
um but yeah, moving on to some injury news. Frank Schwindel to the 10-day injured list with the lower back strain. Alfonso Rivas comes back from AAA. Marcus Stroman's expected back late June, early July. Clinton Frazier cleared waivers, so he's back in AAA Iowa.
Mhm.
Seiya Suzuki resumed non-contact swings to test his hand. So the rookie outfielder, he's been out since May 27th. He hurt his hand on a slide into second base for Cincinnati, so hopefully he can come back soon because definitely miss a guy like that in the lineup.
Yeah.
Nick Madrigal left a groin strain, and Wade Miley with a left shoulder strain. Both returns are TBD.
Yeah.
So injuries is coming. I mean, I know like we talk when we talk about injuries with the White Sox, and I mean those injuries have impacted a good team, but the
Yeah.
injuries again, like as much as the Cubs are, in a tough spot, they've had a lot of injuries all season. So it kind of makes me wonder, like, hey, if they had a healthy Wade Miley all season,
Mhm.
who knows what could have happened if we had Seiya Suzuki for that. I mean, he's basically missed like I feel like in total, like, he missed like a month. I feel like at this point
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
couple injuries that he's had this year.
Uh,
Hopefully they come back soon and the Cubs can get some done. But
mhm.
really, I mean, we're getting closer to the trade deadline, and just keep hearing more and more about Contreras and more and more about guys like Ian Happ.
Yeah.
So it's really just a matter of time before we start saying goodbye to these guys. But
Hate this
you
time of
know,
year.
yeah, I know. I was just thinking about it too, man. It's like guys like Ian Happ, Wilson. Like we've talked about this before. Wilson, I've kind of come to terms with it. As sad as it is, like I love
Yeah.
Wilson, but like I kind of come to terms with it. I didn't expect Ian Happ to like be gone at this year, but I think
Right.
he's played himself into that. Like he had a good
Yeah.
second half last year. He's always been a solid player when he plays. He's been injured or just had a couple
Mhm.
struggles, but yeah. And I just didn't expect him to like be in trade talk. But at the end of the day, there's plenty of teams out there that need an outfielder that can hit, and Ian Happ can
Yeah.
hit. He's gonna be a
Yeah.
free agent soon, so it
He's
is.
he's really putting on a show this year,
Yeah,
and I think he's not getting any sort of recognition for it either. I was
yeah,
looking at his stats right now. His batting average is 290.
mhm,
Um, and also there are some, we're seeing like the All Star voting kind of take shape a little bit with the starters and everything. I just don't see a reason why Ian Happ isn't
yeah,
even a name that's mentioned up there. Like you said, he's such a young player and he can do so much for a ball club. Yeah. I think I'm very surprised by the Ian Happ part, but I think that's a player that we could build around. But if they feel that it's necessary to deal him and get some more young players, okay, let's do that. But it's one thing to trade away some of the main young players that we still have for younger prospects, and to not do anything with those prospects and to not develop them. Kind of going back to what I said earlier. Um, I don't believe us getting rid of all of our bullets, just getting rid of this, completely emptying the tank, just unloading everything. I don't know how well that's going to work out all the time because there's no way possible that all of these prospects work out. It's important to have players like Hap on the team or Contreras or Hayward, who I know is not going to go because of his contract. He's pretty locked in. If they full send it, like I said earlier, we got to make sure we properly develop these guys because if not, it's going to be a cycle of some very, very unfortunate Cubs baseball for a very long time. So that's what I'm keeping my fingers crossed does not happen.
yeah. And then like Jed Hoyer had a little press conference the other day and was talking about the just what's happening right now and just how rough it is to watch. And yeah, he talks about like they asked him about the money side of things and like if the
Yeah,
Cubs are gonna be willing to spend and stuff like that. And he's saying the money's gonna be there when needed. And I mean yeah, I hope it is because I mean the thing is, look the yeah, and you're right. I get it. Like at some point, something's got to give with some of these guys. You got to resign one of them and like
yeah,
you know have something there, right? Like,
yeah.
um, and yeah, it's like I definitely would be as much as like if Ian Happ, for example, gets traded to the Dodgers, is probably best case scenario for us, just because the Dodgers have just like an amazing crop of young players,
Absolutely,
regardless of whether in the
absolutely.
majors or
Yeah,
or in the minors. But
yeah,
yeah, I understand definitely where it's almost the same thing as like when you trade prospects for like a big leaguer. Like for example, like when we traded Gleyber Torres for Chapman.
yeah.
At the time, people were like, "Oh no, but Gleyber like this and that, whatever." And I'm
Hmm.
like, "Yeah." Like at the time though, I'm like, "Dude, I'd rather win a World Series. I want a guy now. I don't want like a lottery ticket to just
Yeah,
be
yeah. That
right."
was an hour never. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So it's like but it's kind of the same thing. It's like yeah,
Hmm.
you make a good point in like saying that we're getting these prospects and it's cool, but like yeah, you're like out of like nine prospects, only three might hit. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like it's definitely a gamble, and I
yeah,
think that and you keep kind of hearing too that like this offseason the Cubs are going to be willing to spend, which I mean I hope that's true.
yeah.
I know that Jason Hayward's days I think are numbered here, whether it be like
Absolutely.
in the offseason or whether him being DFA'd like next year, because
Yeah,
obviously next year his last year on the contract, but like I don't know, we'll see. That's going to be definitely something to watch out for because you have guys like Aaron Judge as a free agent.
mhm,
Carlos Correa may opt out.
yeah,
So if the Cubs are willing to spend and they get a guy like that, then it changes like the game. It changes the whole thing, the whole trajectory. Um, excuse me, but yeah, it's gonna be I don't know. It's gonna be a wild summer. Just seeing what happens and who
yeah.
leaves and who and yeah, who comes in. But
I'm hoping
you
if they
know,
do that, they put some pieces around those guys if we do
yeah,
decide to pursue them, because I'm pretty sure those guys aren't going to want to come to Chicago cold in April and they got nothing around them. I'm hoping that, like, kind of like we're talking about, we got it. We have to
mhm,
keep some guys around. We have to. I I think it'd be very unfair to the players you just named that if the Cubs were to sign them, they come to a, a scenario where, we're not a winning team yet, but even though you just signed for 280 million, we'll get there. Don't worry. Give us like 4 years, we'll start winning baseball. I, I'd be like, dude, this isn't why I came. I mean, I guess for some guys, the money is the money, but the two guys you just named, those are players that want to compete. They love baseball first, especially Aaron Judge. We know he wants to get paid. He deserves to as well. Um, but he also wants to, play some winning baseball. He's been a Yankee his entire career, and that's all he knows. So I'm hoping, hoping that if we are able to bring these guys in, two players who I think would fit well, beautifully here in Chicago, give them something to work with. They can't all the pressure can't just be on them. So I'm hoping that's what the Cubs do not do if we do go that way.
yeah, oh no, yeah, 100%. I think that's you can't. I don't think you could pitch to a player, and not include those things. I hope so. Um,
Yeah.
but no, yeah, with the Cubs, it's always a fluid situation, especially nowadays. So it'll be something to look for. I know this week they got three more against the Pirates, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they have a 3-game series against the Cardinals. The Pirates, I mean, just got to find a way to win, right? I mean, the Pirates have
That's
just
it.
been on us all season.
Yeah.
At the Cardinals, the Cubs played them pretty good. When they played that 5-game series, Cubs
Yeah.
lost 2 out of 5. Cubs lost 3 out of 5. But what do you see coming up this week, like in that Cardinal series, for example? What can the Cubs do against a Cardinals team that's looking like it could easily win the Central?
Oh my gosh. I really like the approach that they had against them during the last series. Limit their bats as best as possible. I think the pitching on the Cardinals isn't elite, but it is still good enough to make sure they're a winning ball club. Yeah, I think just limit the bats, but obviously that's very hard when you have Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado in the same lineup. Um, it's a very hard thing to do, but the Cubs kind of did it. They kind of neutralized them the best that they could. They still had some pretty good series against us, especially Goldschmidt at Wrigley. But this is still a lineup that is, if they pitch the way they did the last time, you can neutralize them. And offensively, I don't see any reason why we can't keep up with them. Um, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm hoping that we just don't let them, just completely blow us out of the water. And now they're gonna put a position player in, and no more of that. Come on, let's compete at least. Let's compete at least. If we're losing close games is one thing. But if we're just getting blown out of the water, then we got to put some position players in. Oh man, come on. Let's at least make it close. Make them sweat a little bit. So yeah,
Yeah, and that's one of the good things. At least the Cubs have done is kept the games close. Like I know
yep,
lately probably hasn't been the case, but overall they were like I think they were first in the league in playing 1-run games. So at least
yep,
they're keeping it competitive for a team that's not doing so well.
yep.
Now moving on now to the White Sox. They come in 32 and 33. They're still in third place, 4.5 games behind the Twins, 3.5 behind the Guardians. And they, to be honest, overall they've been looking a little better. They've won 5 out of their last 7. They swept the Tigers 3 games to nothing, and then they lost a series to the Astros, a very tightly contested series, 2 games out of 3. That Tiger series, man, that was nasty. Like I mean, the Tigers in general are just a sad team. Like in general, in like so many ways, like their stats, they're like last in so many offensive categories, pitching categories. They're really, really, really bad, which I didn't expect. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the season. I thought the Cardinals, or sorry, excuse me, that the Tigers were going to be a little better than this, and their prospects were we're gonna like lift them up to be a little better. I know they've had some or I've been unlucky with a little bit of the pitching side because Casey Mize, tore an ACL.
Yeah, yeah,
I believe either that, yeah, I believe it was a torn ACL, but he's out for the season. So,
yeah. Javi
um,
Baez is really, really,
oh,
really struggling this year as
mm,
well.
yeah,
Whoa, I think that's kind of thrown off their game plan a little bit offensively. Wow. Now I really don't have
No,
much to
yeah.
say about it, honestly. I
No, bro. Yeah, I mean, I
I'm
saw.
very shocked. I know kind of the metrics don't kind of already pointed that Javi wouldn't succeed at that home ballpark. I didn't expect him to struggle like this. This is Javi Baez, this is Omago. But maybe going into next year he settles in a little bit. But like you said, we didn't expect them to struggle this much. We thought the prospects would work well, then with Javi as well. But it's you could tell this is kind of the Tigers are like, oh crap, okay, we still got some holes we got to fill here, and I think they're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, no, oh yeah. I mean, the Javi Baez thing. I mean, watching him play, I'm like, man, like it looks like rookie year Javi Baez when it comes to swinging, when it comes to swinging misses,
Yeah,
and just like what he's doing at the plate. I know I
yeah,
saw he hit like a 3-run bomb the other day to like
yeah, yeah,
give the Tigers the lead, but I mean, hopefully it's a sign of of good things to come. But
yeah.
yeah,
Fingers crossed for him.
yeah, because there has not been much to cheer for there at all. Like
Yeah,
even Robbie Grossman, who's been good with them before,
yeah,
last year he had a good season. He has just not been hitting either. So
yeah, yeah,
it's just been an unlucky season so far for the Tigers. The Sox went on to play the Astros over the weekend, and I thought it was another great opportunity for the Sox to get a series win against one of the best teams in baseball. But they weren't able to do it. For example, in Game One. The Sox were down 3-0. AJ Pollock comes up, ties the game with a 3-run homer, but then
yeah,
the Astros have a 10-run inning,
yeah,
and they go on to beat the Sox 13-3. So that's pretty bad. Giolito allows 8 runs in 5 innings. The Sox ended up bouncing back with a 7-0 win on Saturday,
yeah,
behind Johnny Cueto, another Johnny Cueto gem. Man, Johnny Cueto. I mean, if you look at it, he's been from a certain way, like he's been a savior for the Sox,
yeah,
like because they've had so many injuries from the pitching side, and maybe some inconsistencies. Besides guys like maybe like Kopech or even like Cease, but
yeah,
I was looking at his numbers, man. He's already accrued a 1.3 WAR in 42 plus innings. With the Sox, it's only second behind Kopech's 2.4, which is ninth in
yeah.
baseball, and he has a 2.95 ERA. So Cueto in general has just been, man, he's been a superhero for those guys,
Magnificent.
and
Yeah,
yeah, and I'm sure he's going to stay in the rotation for as long as he can be.
yeah.
What have you seen from his stuff, and like, do you think he's going to remain in the rotation? Like, I mean, at this point, I don't see how they can afford to take him out, but like, what are the types of things that he's brought to the White Sox?
He looked like the Johnny Cueto of old. Honestly,
Hmm.
I loved kind of the confidence that he's pitching. He really reminds me a lot of when he was on the Reds. This is the Johnny Cueto that I feel like
Yeah,
I'm watching right now. Um, and just confident attacking hitters. He's always had really good breaking stuff, and I think that's been a plus for him. A lot of his stuff moves. Obviously, his fastball isn't as commanding as it used to be, so he's depending more on his breaking stuff. But in my opinion, he's kind of the best that he's ever been because now he has to depend more on those pitches with movement, keeping the ball away from the barrels of hitters, and also his whole personality, his whole look just fits. It screams Chicago White Sox. So, and I kind of saw that from the beginning too. I was like, oh yeah, he fits great with this team. This his whole persona and the quirks that he comes with and kind of the fun that he has while he pitches. It's perfect. It's perfect. He fits like a glove for the White Sox. He's been the saving grace for them. I don't see any reason to move him out of that rotation. Keep him in there. Keep him in there as much as you can. I didn't expect Giolito to struggle this year the way he has, but he is struggling, and that kind of is what it is at the moment. I believe that he is going to come out of that. But keep him in that rotation. Keep him in there because Cueto's going to keep him. He's going to keep this team afloat. Every 5 days. So loving what I'm saying from him, and you know the Sox are more than able to turn this around. I think we're starting to see this, like you said. Um, just got to keep that momentum going, and good things will happen.
yeah, and in that game where Cueto, was great for the Sox. Justin Verlander didn't even get through 4 innings, so the Sox
Yeah,
offense
yeah.
was looking good in that game. And
Verlander
then
has like a 2.3 ERA as well.
yeah,
So
dude, yeah. So that was, I mean, that was and that's what I thought was going to propel them to series win. Like I was
yeah,
like, dude, they 7-0, you know, they held that offense and then blasted Verlander as at least, or at least compared to other
yeah,
types of games.
Yeah.
But and then in the finale on Sunday night baseball, the Astros jumped on to one of the best pitchers in the AL, which is Michael Kopech. When you're talking about
Yeah.
another great pitcher, they had 2 home runs off of Kopech and 4 earned in 5 innings. That wasn't necessarily like a bad like it was it's a bad game for him because of how
Mhm.
good he is, but
Yeah.
they were able to jump out on him. I mean, Mauricio Dubon from the Astros had 2 hits, 2 RBIs, and a home run.
Yeah.
So that that was it's just one of those game. And also like when you I saw when I was watching the game is I saw like they brought up home runs that wouldn't be home runs at every ballpark, right? A stat, right? And it was
Yeah.
of course we talked about this before, but Yankee Stadium #1, and then and this was I think in the last 5 years. I think it was like in the last 5 years, Yankees #1, and then Wrigley Field was second, which I thought was crazy. But it's probably the wind stuff, going on. But nobody, it's kind of funny though. Nobody ever, I feel like we talk about the wind and how crazy it is, but I feel like nobody's ever crying about like, oh, like this wasn't a home run here or it wasn't a home run there. But I guess it just fits into the hypocrisy of that argument, anyways, when it comes to like people
Yeah.
crying about like, oh, it's too small or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I believe Minute Maid was third, so that was kind of funny because it's because of the Crawford boxes, obviously, like I think Dubon's home run was like 363.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that that when they were talking about that, I was like, oh yeah, I guess it makes sense now. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think when guys like Luis Robert, like if those guys, like if that guy gets hot, I mean that changes the whole trajectory of the White Sox. Like
Yeah.
he can carry the team.
Mhm.
Andrew Vaughn's been probably the most consistent White Sox offensively.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean if I think yeah, they're looking a little better overall. And it's like with the White Sox, it's like at this point, even if I mean, obviously the division is not over, right? But I still think the White Sox are going to make the playoffs. I like even if they don't win the division, obviously because of the wild card spots. I know that it's getting a little dicey because of the AL East and
Mhm.
how good those teams are. But I don't know, man. The more I see of the Red Sox, the less I think they're going to make the playoffs, just because they just don't have the team that, for example, the White Sox have when healthy,
Yeah.
especially from the
Yeah.
pitching side of things. So I don't know. I think ultimately the White Sox are going to make it. In doesn't matter how they do, but I think they'll make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like another thing I was gonna say was Abreu's continued to hit, man. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
he's been on fire. Um, which makes a lot of sense for a guy from Cienfuegos, Cuba, which Cienfuegos translates to 100 fires. I mean,
Oh, that's
that says it all, bro.
yeah.
You gotta
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
yeah.
Like that.
You can only yeah you can only be cold for so long when you're from there, right? So, but
Like
yeah,
that.
and then another thing too was actually in that Tiger series, Dylan Cease improved to 10-0 against the Tigers in his career against them. He has like a 1.91 ERA and 11 starts against the Tigers. That's just that's just bullying at that point.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah.
The Tigers. Um, but yeah, so overall, Sox had a solid week with that series sweep, and also just regardless of losing a series against the Astros, you know what? That's one of the best teams in the AL. So you know, stuff like that happens. But looking ahead now, they do have Toronto for 2 games and 4 against Baltimore, 2 more against Toronto, and then 4 against Baltimore. But before we get into that, because I do want to get your thoughts on those series, uh, who do you see as of right now as Sox All Stars? There's been plenty of guys for a team that is on the bubble, still kind of figuring out who they are this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
They still got actually plenty of options. I mean, for All Star, and they can easily have maybe 3 All Stars or something like that. Still, who do you see making the team as of right now?
My eyes are on Tim Anderson, Andrew Vaughn, and Luis Robert. I think these guys have been so incredible throughout the season in terms of just kind of carrying this team. I know Timmy's been injured a little bit, and so is Luis Robert. He was injured for a little bit, but I think it's just it's been fun to kind of see these guys kind of carry that offensive load. I really want to say Yohan Moncada, but he's had a tough time getting back into his groove. But it's understandable with the injury that he's coming off of. It's never easy to come back and be consistent. It's just not. So the guys who do come back and they do dominate, shows how special that is. But those are the 3 players that I'm really watching, especially Andrew Vaughn, who has been incredible. While both of those guys have been down, Vaughn is I don't know. Every time that he's taking the field, he's just doing something incredible offensively. And I like him a lot in right field. The Sox do have a few guys they can go with. If Jose Abreu was hitting the way he is now in the beginning of the year, I think he would have got more recognition. I think people are going to look at his, batting average and kind of stray away from it a little bit. But even looking at his batting average, I don't think it's terrible. And we all know how he started this year, but Sox definitely have a few options there. And then in terms of pitching, Kopech, oh my gosh, is Kopech and Dylan Cease. These are guys who I am really, really hoping gets some recognition because they have pitched their butts off this year. And, hopefully when the White Sox start winning more, I think they'll start to get more attention. It shouldn't be like that because there are plenty of players on teams that aren't winning that should be mentioned more. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Maybe Liam Hendricks, who's turned it around a little bit as well. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, and I mean when you talk about like that, man, they could easily have like 4 or 5 All-Stars, and I mean
Hmm.
it's well deserved. I mean those are guys that have been having good seasons, and without them, this who knows where the Sox would be. And it's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
and yeah, like for me too, it's like the pitching side. I mean, yeah, it's Kopech. It's I think Hendricks will still make the cut. Like he's been well improved over the last month and a half, so he's been able to bounce back from a rough start. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's a lot of the young guys, and it'd be cool to see like if a guy like Andrew Vaughn gets the nod, a guy like Kopech, just because it'll be their first time. So
yeah,
it'll be
yeah,
cool to see that. And then Tim Anderson, obviously, we hope he's healthy by then, and we hope he's able to play in that game. So that'll be cool. And then so this week the Sox have like I said, 2 more against the Blue Jays and 4 against the Orioles. Obviously, we saw what the Sox could do against the Jays yesterday. They had a 8-7 win. This is on Monday, an 8-7 win over the Jays. They had home runs, or excuse me, or yeah, sorry, they had home runs from Josh Harrison, Andrew Vaughn, and Luis Robert. And also they had some errors.
uh
Reese McGuire, Jake Berger had a couple errors that led to some runs. And then eventually the Blue Jays scored a few runs in the ninth with the help of a Kevin Biggio home run too. And the game ended 8-7, so it could have easily been an 8-2 White Sox win, but
yeah,
it got a little ugly there at the end. But what do you think?
yeah,
I mean, I think this is a pretty another series that if this, I know the Blue Jays maybe aren't playing their best baseball either as of late. I know they lost a series to the
yeah,
Yankees, but um, there's another series too that could be help out with the confidence there too. I mean, the Sox are playing a little better
yeah,
if they can win 2 out of 3, maybe even sweep here. I mean, that would be a big boost. Even that series against the Orioles is going to be very difficult, I think, because it's just
yeah,
like we've talked about the Orioles before. I mean, they when they face the Cubs, they're a good team in a very good like in a good division. Like I think that the young players are playing really well and they're holding their ground. So what do you
yeah.
see from this series, these 2 series coming up?
Yeah, fingers crossed that the Sox actually sweep. I'm hoping that they sweep the Blue Jays. I think they're more than capable. Gossman's a great pitcher, but I think Dylan Cease is better, and the Sox are at home. For today, I like the momentum the Sox are working with. Now you got Stripling on Wednesday against Giolito. So I think when it comes to like Stripling, it's this is a pitcher that's been around for a while. He's very seasoned. I think he's more than capable of kind of neutralizing some of the bats. But I'm hoping with Giolito that this is a game that he kind of comes into his own this season. We haven't seen it with him. He's been hit very, very hard. I've seen him walk a lot of guys this year. So and the Blue Jays are a lineup that is very dangerous, very dangerous. But like you said, they're not playing the best baseball lately. And I think they can get swept, but it's still important to note that there are some very heavy offensive threats on that team. I don't think now Bo Bichette right now I think he's leading his position in All Star votes. I don't think he should be in that spot right now, but he is a very, very, very talented hitter who is very dangerous and is still having, a pretty solid year. But I look at someone like Vladdy Jr. as someone you have to respect him. So hoping for the White Sox to kind of just bear down and just dominate at home, and going to that Orioles series feeling good about themselves because that Orioles team is pesky. They are annoying. You think that you could beat them, and next thing you know, they just took 2 out of 3 games from me. So hoping the White Sox kind of humble themselves and take care of business with this series and let the next guys come into town and take care of that. And then I think that's going to do so many wonders for them in terms of this momentum and feeling good. So yeah,
Yeah, and as you said about the shortstop thing too, is like, um, the voting came out today, right? They were looking at they had the leaders, and yeah, Bo Bichette is in first, and Tim
yeah,
Anderson is in second. So yeah, so
yeah.
hopefully White Sox
What are you
fans,
doing?
yes, yeah,
What are you
hopefully
doing?
White Sox fans get to the virtual polls and start voting more for Tim Anderson.
Vote,
Uh,
Sox fans,
yeah,
vote.
yeah, yeah. So it's gonna be definitely a race because it's close. I mean, it's like only like 60,000 votes separate them. It's not as crazy as the catcher position. I mean, I saw I think it's Alejandro Kirk is in first with like a million votes, and Trevino's in second from the Yankees at
Mhm.
387,000. So, so that's gonna be. It looks like you could make an argument that
All right,
Kirk's got that in the bag. So,
all right.
yeah, no,
MLB,
it.
we gotta do some change of this system. This is not
I know they always say like it's always a topic of discussion like every year. It's like, man, should fans have but it's always like MLB's always like in a bind because they're like, well, you take away the voting from the fans or you mess with the voting, it's like they're not going to want to watch the game, and it's like, I mean,
yeah,
I
exactly.
don't I feel like you could do just something way better than what it is now. I don't know because
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you thought or you would think it would change, in 2015 when it was just like the whole AL team was the Royals. Remember
It
that?
was the
I
whole
was like,
Royals team. Yeah,
oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
god. But it is what it is. I mean, at least it doesn't count anymore. If I guess if I think if it counted, for home field advantage like it used to, they might have been like, you know what, let's change it up because yeah,
Hmm,
that's
hmm.
it's wild there. But yeah, the White Sox hopefully trending up, and they continue to trend up. And just bring some more excitement to the South Side because it's definitely needed for that team. And once they're getting healthier and healthier, and hopefully that helps out too. I know Eloy Jimenez had a little bit of a hiccup, but he should be fine. I know Yohan Moncada did not play on Sunday. He had an MRI in his right hamstring, and he went to the IL. Liam Hendricks hopes to return in early July. He had a right forearm strain. And then Yasmani Grandal is expected to be back in less than 10 days. He was out with
Yep.
back spasms. So
Mhm.
Sox injuries, hopefully start to, everything starts to come together and they have more players in the roster. But yeah, they still, like I said, sit at 32 and 33 and 4.5 games out of first place. So that does it for Chicago baseball. We'll move on to around the league and some more stuff happened around in the last week. I mean, we talked a little bit about Mookie Betts now, who's out indefinitely with a broken rib. He collided with
Yeah.
Cody Bellinger there, and we talked a little bit about the Cubs trading, with Ian Happ and stuff like that. And that's like that's kind of what I meant to with the Dodgers. If we traded Ian Happ there, is because I think they're gonna be on the market for an outfielder. I know they traded for Trace Thompson, and I saw like they had like a deal for Trace Thompson, and I was like, why? I don't know why this is newsworthy because it's not like Trace Thompson's like an all-star caliber player or something like that. He's been there multiple times. It's not even the first time he's been in LA. He hasn't really helped them out that much, but they're going to be out in the market, I think, to get someone. And I think, and also just overall, I don't, the Dodgers have not been playing great baseball. I mean, they had a team meeting. Dave Roberts was even like roasting them, honestly. Like, they had, like, was saying about, oh, they need to do better, like, blah,
Hmm,
blah, this. And
hmm.
I mean, which is true. Well, what have you seen on the Dodgers as a whole? And what do you think they're going to do with that? How do you think they're going to fare now that, they've been struggling overall, now that they're without Mookie Betts?
Yeah, so this is a very deep team. And I remember we kind of touched on
Hmm.
this, and I'm pulling up, I'm kind of pulling up their roster right now as I talk about it. This is a very deep team in general. So it's unfortunate, with losing bets for a while. But this is still a very talented ball club. As I think about, and you know, Dave Roberts, roasting his team. this the standards for that team must be very high when you are 40 and 25.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I think I do agree that they can have been, they can be playing better baseball. I think they'll be just fine. I think they'll be just fine, but there is definitely some making up there that you have to do. In terms of just kind of figuring out the how you're going to work this lineup every single night. Mookie Betts is kind of a good placeholder for every single lineup. Whether it is a righty or a lefty on the mound, Mookie was pretty solid against both sides. So you kind of got to figure out which player fits best in that position. So you know, Dodgers are a very solid team. This is really nothing to be too worried about. Not saying that they don't need Mookie Betts, but they can still hold their own for a while without him. But they do need him around. So you know they'll be just fine. They'll be just fine. I think it's just in terms of trying to figure out this outfield rotation. The few guys that come to mind right now. So we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do with that. But there's not really a wrong decision that the Dodgers can make, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think I did see also like some of the comments he made. He kind of like walked back this week,
Yeah,
and I think he was talking about like just the effort and just like what the guys have to do and stuff like that. But yeah, and it's like you said, the bar is high for a team that's 40-25, and it is, man. It's like realistically, they should have the same record or even a better record than the Yankees. It's just the way it is, like the way that team is set up, and they haven't had that many injuries necessarily to hurt them overall. So, and in that division too, like the division is not necessarily the best division in baseball. It's interesting. It's a little more competitive with the Padres and Giants, but it's not last year where you could have easily had like three playoff teams. I mean, the Giants were one of the best teams in baseball. So it's definitely they should definitely be playing better, and I think that I think that we'll be fine ultimately with Mookie Betts. They're gonna need guys like Bellinger to step up, but I feel like we've been saying that for like a year now, and it hasn't happened. But yeah, we'll see. And going on now to like a different NL West team is the Padres. Now they've been playing great baseball. They even moved into first place for a little bit, taking over that Dodger spot. I think as of right now they're tied. But Manny Machado's also now out. Now this is a team that has been playing without Fernando Tatis Jr. all season, and they've been playing well without him. Now they're going to be playing without Manny Machado. How do you see that? How do you see them faring? And do you think they'll be in the market for a trade piece too? I mean, we don't know how long Machado's going to be out. We don't know how Tatis. I feel like his stuff keeps getting pushed back.
yeah.
Or do you think they'll ride it out and with the team they got? I mean, Cronenworth's hitting a little better, but it's like I don't know to rely on like a Profar as much as he's played better this year. I don't know if that's like a long term thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a long term thing, but I think it's like they do still have offensive threats and Eric Hosmer. I do like Jorge Alfaro off the bench. Austin Nola has been as solid as he can be offensively. Um, it's not going to be easy, and I think this actually might hit them a little bit just in terms of their offensive production. And kind of what I talk about with the Dodgers, they got to reconstruct that lineup significantly now because now you're without your now you're without both of your best hitters. At first, you were away from one of them. By the way, both defensively very, very talented, and especially Manny Machado, who does things at third base that I don't think physically should be possible. I don't understand how you get a ground ball and you backhand it and it's a no effort, strike to the first baseman while you're still going backwards 10 feet in the foul grounds. I don't know how he does it. It's just incredible. So
Hmm.
I think, this in terms of losing that offense and defense from Manny Machado, that's big. That's gonna hurt them. So you kind of got to figure out where you're going to move guys around. I think Luke Voigt has kind of been turning it on a little bit lately. Jurickson Profar has been solid. I just don't know if that's going to last very long. Cronenworth he's been hitting well also. So there's definitely players I could point out, right now who I think are going to, kind of hold this team together. But that's not a winning lineup offensively, and so I think they'll start to show. So it's really going to be up to the pitching. It's going to be up to the pitching to keep these guys in the ball games, give their offense a chance. You Darvish, keep doing what you're doing. Joe Musgrove, Sean Manaea. I think pitching wise, they just got to hold it together, and I think they'll be okay. But offensively, as I'm kind of looking at this roster, I don't think that's a winning lineup anymore. But it is a lineup that is still going to keep you on your toes a bit. But it's really going to come down to the pitching to keep these games close.
Yeah, it's funny because without Machado, with Tatis Jr. They almost remind me of like a of kind of like a Rays team where like they have the pitching and they their lineup is just kind of like, man, we'll see, manufacture some runs. If you can manufacture any types of runs, then you'll win. It's like, because you have the type of pitching to shut down the opposition.
Yeah,
So, and yeah, and the thing is that Musgrove's having a Cy Young Award, type year.
yeah,
Yu Darvish has been pitching more like himself lately. So yeah, they have plenty of options on the pitching side to be able to keep themselves in the game and win games as these guys are out. I think that's what's been the main thing. And it's like they haven't even had like Clevenger. Like I feel like since he got traded there, like they really
yeah,
haven't. But so he's been injured so many times.
yeah,
So yeah, I think they'll be fine. And I think that division is going to go up to, it's going to be them two that are going to be fighting over for the top spot. Um, Giants, I think they'll still be like in contention for a wild card spot.
hmm
But nothing to really put any fear into these two teams.
right.
Um, Also around the league, another thing I want to talk about was Lorenzo Cain actually got designated for assignment um by the Brewers. Now
hmm
he's been on that team for years now, and I guess apparently he's considering a retirement too. Um, that team, it's pretty interesting to me because I feel like Lorenzo Cain could have been DFA'd a few years ago, but like the thing is, I think he was like a big leader on the team, and kind of like Jason Hayward. I think that's one of the main reasons Jason
Yeah,
Hayward hasn't been designated
yeah.
for assignment is because he's been able to mentor some of the guys. What did you think about that decision? And do you think like this is kind of a sign of maybe the Brewers are kind of like they're done playing like nice guy with certain guys. Like it's they got to win. Like right, it's like they were in first place for most of this season, but the Cardinals have been challenging them now. And I think the Brewers are
Yeah.
kind of like putting it into another gear and kind of saying like what, they got to do better, they got to be better, and they're probably going to get better players now.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely guys, we gotta turn it on kind of thing. Lorenzo Kane, I in when I was watching him in the games that I was watching him in, defensively he was in my opinion, I think he was remarkable. I know he wasn't always put out there just because he was getting up there in age and they weren't putting him in the outfield a lot. But yeah, it's the offensive stats. It's the offensive stats for the most part, and not really hitting the ball hard, not really getting a lot of base hits or getting on base too much. That'll do it for you for sure. But yeah, I think it's the Brewers letting guys know, hey, we gotta we're in first place in our division, but I think it's not much of a secret that they're in first place because it is the NL Central. Um, other divisions that are significantly more competitive, I don't even think the Brewers are maybe they're in third place if they're in the East, and I'm not saying that in terms of taking their record and like placing it in there. I'm saying it just as how I think that they would do if this was a whole different scenario. So, the Brewers, as much as they've been staying in first place and performing the way they have, I believe that they have been hanging on by a string. I really do. And they should be so happy that they're playing in a division where it's not very competitive. But they got the Cardinals right behind them. So it's a matter of, hey, you know what? We gotta pull away with this thing and make some sort of statement because this is a team where I believe if the Cardinals catch them, if the Cardinals make a couple of moves at the deadline in terms of pitching, I the Brewers are gonna get smacked around and left in the dust. So they have to start making moves and they have to start letting guys know, hey, you know what? Let's go. Let's go. We're in first, but we can't be complacent about this. And if players aren't performing, and there are guys who it might be it for them. Yeah, you got to part ways. You got to part ways with that player, and unfortunately, you got to find someone who is going to. Fortunately, and unfortunate for the player who's DFA'd or released or let go. But fortunate for the guy who comes up and can prove himself to give take advantage of this opportunity. So I think there's a couple of things that play into it, but for the Brewers, it's go time because there's no hanging around that's gonna work. That's gonna work out.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point. I mean, it's like even if you're in first place, especially first place of the NL Central, it's not something that's like noteworthy. It's like uh, even you could say, man, you could say, and I've been making a point of this talking to people about the Central Division on both leagues. I mean, it's been bad. Midwest baseball has
hmm
not been good this year,
hmm
and it's like nobody like as much as Byron Buxton's an exciting player as much as the Twins have been surprising.
Hmm.
It's not, for lack of a better word, it's not sexy baseball, man. Like the Midwest is not something
Right.
that people are like, dying to watch, and it's like from top to bottom. It's like the
Yeah.
Brewers and Cardinals, like sure they're fighting for first place, but it's like it's not that exciting compared to like I don't know, like a race between the Mets and the Braves or the
Exactly.
Padres
Yeah.
and Dodgers or
No.
and it's funny because even like the Yankees, even the East is talked about a lot more than those. And regardless of it being the Yankees, but like the Blue Jays and like the Rays are talked about more. But those are teams that are like they're going to be probably in the playoffs, but they're like 14 or they're 12 and 4 teams games back in the division. So it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of funny, but yeah, it just shows how good that division is compared to. I mean, the Central Division. I mean, you look at just all you have to know about the Central Division in the National League, at least from just looking at it, is the Pirates are in third place. That basically says it all. Like regardless of how far they are, like them being in third place kind of
Yeah.
just about says it all. And I think
Yes.
also I did not expect the Guardians to be as good as they are for in the AL Central, right? It's like
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
as and you know how you talked about like the Cardinals making some moves or even the Brewers making some moves, but like the Guardians making a few moves too, they could easily take an extra step and even take over the AL Central. I mean, they're only a game back
Yeah.
of the Twins, so that
Yeah.
the Central in general is very definitely there's going to be a possibility of it changing overnight. So
Yeah.
hopefully, and the thing is too is like hopefully it gets a little more excited, a little more closer, especially with AL Central. It's a 3-team race, so at least
Yeah.
that helps them out.
Yeah.
And hopefully the White Sox are able to make some moves too that are able to help them and just get healthy in general. Um, but yeah, other than
Yeah.
that, a couple other notes. I know we talked about it before the show too. Is like the Yankees have the number one prospect in baseball now that everyone's been called up from the top five besides him, which is Anthony Volpe, the shortstop. So that's kind of crazy because I don't think in the last 20 years the Yankees have had at least a number one prospect. So
Right.
that's pretty cool to see at least because I know they definitely need someone. They're going to need someone at shortstop because Isaiah kind of Falefa is not necessarily the shortstop of the future. So
Right.
it'll be cool to see. I know Riley Green is one of those guys that was in the top five. He came up and he had a couple hits over the weekend.
Yeah.
So it's definitely some positives there. Because and we like we said before, the Tigers need all kinds of positives from that end. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, other than that, I think that should just about wrap things up for episode 12 of the At Bat Baseball
Oh,
podcast.
12.
Yeah, episode 12, man. Yeah, no, double digits. Uh,
Yeah.
so that'll wrap things up for At Bat Baseball podcast presented by War Media. First, Saul Rodriguez, Miles Porter. Miles Porter's going to Mexico, so wish him farewell for the week, and we'll see him next week. All fed with the Mexican food and
Oh
the
yeah.
sun. It's gonna be a good time, I'm sure, right, man?
Oh yeah.
All
I
right,
look forward to it. I'm gonna
all right,
watch some
man.
baseball out there, some local baseball.
Oh,
I know they got some leagues out there. I'm gonna go watch some games. So
oh, hell
yeah,
yeah, man.
maybe
Yeah, man.
participate a little bit too. I don't know.
Hell yeah, no, Mexico loves baseball, so yeah, definitely for
Yeah.
sure. All right, man, you take it easy, and everyone have a great week.